Isn't that catchy? I think it's catchy. I've been had it stuck in my head ever since Wasabi Tonic got it. Did you hear my own voice? No? Oh, that's part of the song. Ever since Wasabi Tonic started maining King K. Rool, he plays this constantly. We'll get started in just a minute here. We'll be corrupting Mother 3 live on stream using the real-time corruptor version. What version are we on today? 3.28. Looking forward to version 4.0 coming out a little bit. Still in the works, but we'll get started here in just a few. Song really builds itself up. We're gonna go ahead and stop it there though. It's got about 20 seconds left if you actually want to hear the end of it. Alright, and we're gonna start here. So if you're unfamiliar with how I do streams normally, I'm gonna explain what everything on the screen you're seeing is in just a few moments. Off to the right side of the screen we have the real-time corruptor, which bunch of dials and gauges, and has a couple different components that we'll talk about. And off to the left we actually have the emulation that we're running of Mother 3. That's my own personal copy of the game that I ripped, and that I'll be corrupting here on stream. So let's get started here. And just to start off, I'm going to look for a place to corrupt. We can actually do, just as an example, we can start off here at the beginning. However, I'd like to also do just gameplay. So let's actually, I create a save state here just in case, but let's skip forward. I'm just going to go with all the defaults for everything. Hey, what up, the dude? How you doing, man? Name your brave, smart dog. What's your favorite food? Don't care. Omelets, that's fine. Favorite thing? Top spec. And then tune down the audio just a little bit here. Text speed, medium's fine. Window color and okay. What happened there? Config, speed. No, we're still good to go. Hey, Baby Blue Ford, how you doing today? Good to see you. I'm gonna make a second save state there, because we might be able to corrupt the cinematic a little bit. Nowhere Islands. What's up? Nothing much. I actually have never played Mother 3, so don't expect too much lore. I played Mother 1 and a bit of 2. I haven't completed 2. 3 is brand new to me. Making a third save state here. I love it when the camera pans. We can usually corrupt how the camera pan moves around a bit. And we're gonna skip all the way just to the beginning now. Do I know Pewds? Yeah, I know Pewds. And I'll make my last save state with our good guy Lucas here. Hit or miss, I guess they never... Oh, you got me there. I almost finished it too. Alright, there we go. I'm gonna make our fourth save state here. Alright, and we're going to begin. So I'm going to take a look at the various memory domains that we have available to us. You're going to see all those off on the right side of the screen, and those include the IWRAM, EWRAM, the BIOS, PowerRAM, VRAM, OEM, ROM, SRAM, and combined WRAM, along with the system bus. We'll just sort of experiment here. We'll experiment here and see what these various memory domains will do to the actual ROM. So I'm going to, we have the manual save state set. I'm just going to blast these with just small bits of intensity to see how they corrupt, essentially. So we're going to mess with IWRAM to start off. And here there's already an audio bug, so a lot of these are going to be kind of scratchy. We get that a lot. This is a Game Boy Advance version. Usually with Game Boy Advance games we get that sort of scratching audio like nails on a chalkboard. So I'm turning down the stream audio just a little bit for you guys. It's going to be a little loud for me, but I'll suffer through it. You can already hear it there. I'm going to knock down the intensity. Right now we're dealing with about 50. Ooh, thank you for the... Is that a follow? Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that, man. I almost feel like I should say that whole phrase now, but I'm not going to say it. If you want to see TikTok, you should watch TikTok. I'm not going to play that on stream, though. Alright. So IWRAM, I think for the most part, we might get some visual corruptions, but we're not going to get anything outside of just these awful sounding ones like that. So we're going to move on and mess with EWRAM. Most of the time this crashes the emulation, but we'll give it a try just in case. And actually, I was going to say I wasn't seeing anything. Let's see. This one, for some reason... The old beanstalker bells ringing? Is this normal? Oh, it's like I can put it in the game. Oh! Okay, that was supposed to happen. Let's load it again. Oh, we had a couple good ones there. And we're actually getting some pretty decent visuals, so when we go through our glitch harvester and we actually save some of these, we'll probably touch on EWRAM a little bit to see if we can get some effects out of it. It's not audio though, too. That's a pretty nice effect, I dig it. Alright, moving along. We're not going to corrupt the BIOS right now, just because when you corrupt certain memory domains, they're unrewindable. Honestly, you must have a very high IQ in Rick and Morty. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of those, they have a great fan base, don't they? I like the show in the beginning. I mean, Rick and Morty was alright. it just kind of got too big for its own good, you know? Anyways, we're gonna mess with the BIOS now. So just as a couple examples, immediately when I corrupt the BIOS, I can't jump back to my original save state, since the save state that that's running on, or the actual, the back end of the emulation, I should say, is corrupted. So when you go back to that same save state, you're still running it on corrupted hardware in a sense, or corrupted background software, so you're unable to play without having that corruption. So we're not going to mess with BIOS in the sense that we don't want to see that happen again and again. It's going to be very difficult and very time consuming to corrupt that memory domain, and it doesn't have a very good payoff most of the time. Next is PAL-RAM, which usually if there's a palette, it's going to be stored in PAL-RAM, either that or in some other memory domain referred to, I believe, as CGU RAM, but we'll see if this is stored. I'm hitting this with manual blast, and I'm not seeing anything change on screen. So either the palette isn't stored in this specific memory location, or it's stored in a different fashion. So we're not going to mess with PAL-RAM when we start Bluetooth harvesting. VRAM we're also not going to mess with too much. So the way VRAM works is the visuals are actually drawn on the screen. That is what VRAM, that memory domain, deals with. So when we manually blast this a couple times, you'll see that there's a bunch of just stuff on the screen. And you can actually blast this all day long and just keep adding stuff to that screen, and you're not going to see any mechanical corruptions or anything really that interesting other than all this sort of fuzzle all over the screen. And normally I don't choose to use VRAM when I'm creating corruptions, just because if you have an interesting mechanical corruption going on underneath all this sort of fuzziness, unnecessary junk, why would you choose to hide that? Like, it's kind of masking what the actual corruption is underneath. And we can even go further, and eventually this just turns into Clown Vomit, where nothing in the game is actually recognizable anymore. So we won't be messing with VRAM too much. That's usually something, if you are going to use, you would add it after the fact. If you have sort of a chaotic corruption, maybe you'll add in a little bit of corrupted appearance to it as well. Next is OEM, where it needs to load our fresh save state. Now, if there are object files stored in either the sense of a sprite, or maybe, shoot, I don't even know, anything that moves, anything that could be an object on a screen, it may be stored within OEM. However, I don't believe that will be the case for this, and it doesn't appear to be either. If we saw any sort of flickering on screen, or maybe the sprite itself would have a little bit of flicker to them, then we'd have an idea that the OEM memory domain is being utilized, but since we don't see that at all, I don't believe it's being used, at least in this fashion. Next, we have another unrewind safe memory domain, the ROM itself. So if you actually want to corrupt just the entire ROM, we can give that a try. And again, we have sort of that awful sounding audio. And really, when we corrupt this, we're not getting any interesting visuals. What we're getting is just a straight up crash. So that's usually not too interesting either. Next we have SRAM, Sound RAM. We're going to lower our intensity a lot in this case, just to have a little bit of audio. We don't want to blast the Sound RAM with too much intensity. And notice that this actually, it sounds like we cut out an instrument for a sec there. Unless that was normally part of the song and I don't remember the song too well. Actually, now that I look at it, it doesn't appear that blasting SRAM with anything has any effect. I'm blasting it with a very large intensity and we're not hearing anything. So maybe SRAM isn't utilized either. We can try combined WRAM, however, for combined WRAM it's combining both IWRAM and EWRAM together, and since we didn't run into that good of results with IWRAM, this isn't a good idea, since we'll probably just get corrupted audio, like we do there. Where we really should just be focusing on EWRAM, where we got the interesting results before. Next up we have the system bus. So the system bus is going to be anything, system level stuff. Any hardware interaction, it's all going to go there. Anything that's on the ROM, other than the included memory domains. So we're going to try corrupting that. We still have a very high intensity, so we're going to lower that down, maybe to around 500. And even though we're still getting some awful audio, we're also getting some decent results out of this as well. So I think when we harvest our glitches, we're really going to be messing with the system bus itself, as well as EWRAM. IWRAM led to sound audio corruptions that weren't that interesting. BIOS we're not going to mess with. PowerRAM didn't have any effect. VRAM is unnecessary. OEM doesn't have object files that we can utilize. The ROM itself only crashes. SRAM didn't seem to have any effect. And combined WRAM already goes off of IWRAM to EWRAM. So just EWRAM and system bus will be our two memory fields that we're messing with. And that leads us to where we're going to begin our first sort of corruption. We're going to be in this room still. We're going to be targeting this save state specifically. I'm going to go and pull over my glitch harvester here and create a manual save state. And we're going to load it from this point that we see on screen every time over. And I'd like to begin with messing with EWRAM, since we had that was our first memory domain that we actually saw results on, and pretty interesting results at that. Now within the glitch harvester, we're gonna have to move this over. There we go. Within the glitch harvester, when I hit this blast send button, it will create a save state within our stash history with a blast layer applied to it. And with that blast layer, it contains all the corruptions that we're sending to the ROM. We can actually open that up right here in the blast editor and look at all the different memory writes that we send to memory. There's about 500 there. And this is essentially the corruption. So if we like this corruption in its current state, we could throw it onto a stockpile, and given if we had 10 or 15 corruptions that we really enjoyed, we could send that stockpile off to somebody, and that would be the final results. Now I'm going to run this a couple times. I would like to see if we get any interesting results with an intensity of 500. I'm really not seeing anything. Let me increase our intensity to maybe 2000. And I just want to double check. Yeah, we're still able to corrupt it without issue. Just want to make sure. There's a black screen. There's another audio bug. Second audio bug. This one we had no Lucas, and he's uncontrollable as well. This one's kind of neat. I like the mirror effect there. Is that mirror's normally there or no? Let me see. Oh yeah, so it is normally there. I actually didn't notice that before. However, it sort of extends further, like all around this wall has that mirror effect. Let's see if we can sanitize that and keep that. So I'm opening this in my blast editor now, and we're going to do what's called sanitizing the corruption by just removing unnecessary memory writes, since we have a lot of sort of broken visuals on screen that we don't need. And I'm just going to break it down to maybe 1 or 2 memory writes instead. So I'm going to use this random disable 50% of these button. Now there's only 1,000 of these selected, and we see that the corruption that we're looking for actually doesn't persist in this case. So I'm going to invert the ones I disabled here, load the corruption again, and there's the one we were looking for, so now I can remove the ones I disabled. Right down to 1,000 memory writes. I'll do that once again. And now we're down to 500 memory writes. And I'm just going through this kind of quickly since we have such a large intensity. But we're down to 62 memory writes, 31. Still see the mirror effect, down to 8 memory writes. And I was hoping that some of these corrupted visuals would begin disappearing, but it seems like they're all sort of hand in hand. Like all the purple lines across the screen and like these little green boxes down here, those are all part of the same corruption, all part of the same memory writes. So there we go, we have a single memory right now that we can send to our stash. However, I don't believe I'll be keeping this one. With a single memory write, we have a couple fields that we can edit within the blast editor itself. This specific one sets a value within EWRAM at the source address 16036 in hexadecimal, the value F6. Now we can mess with the value that we send to that source address. Perhaps instead of F6 we can send F0. And you see we get a different corruption out of that. In this case, some of the visuals are a little more messed up in my opinion. We can also send a max value of FF, in which case the entire room is grayed out. We can try a value of 0. in which case the room is perfectly okay. So this would just take a kind of a long time if you're like me and you want to go through all the edge cases, like what's 0, what's FF, what's a random value like AC. That can take a long time to sort of guess through all that. Luckily within the real-time corruptor we have a button that says reroll a selected item, and by re-rolling it we're sending a different variable to memory that corrupts what we're seeing on screen. So essentially I can open up one of these new ones, and now we have the value 7C, which is just randomly decided. And we're going to do that a couple times just to make sure that we're not missing out on any sort of better corruption that we had initially. That one's actually not bad, this one here. If the entire mirror was opaque and you could walk onto the wall a little bit, I would dig this a little bit more, but I don't enjoy that you can't see yourself unless you kind of go too far out, so I don't like this one as much. This is what I was looking for, okay. So this one I like a lot. You have sort of a mirror effect where you're also on the wall and you go outside the mirror, and then at a certain point it sort of disappears. But I like this effect a lot, and this is the one I would like to throw into the stockpile. So I can grab that here. At the very bottom of the stash history is that item. I can click a button to throw it on the stash, and we'll call it Mirror World. There we go. And since this is sanitized, there's nothing else that we have to worry about. Like, we could probably play this entire game with just this one corruption on the screen and never have to worry about it crashing or anything like that. It's a very safe corruption in that sense. Very stable. So now we're going to move on. We can actually just do a brand new fresh corruption, so we're going to clear out our history here and blast in a new one. And I'm wanting to up my intensity since right now it's a little low and we're not seeing enough results on screen. So we're bringing it up to, how about 4,000? We'll double it. The last one, it looks like he has something above his head, but nothing else there. This one, he's constantly blinking. We can save this as sort of like an effect if we want to add it to something later. Now with 4,000 memory rights, it's going to take a lot longer each time that we run a corruption to sanitize it, but that's the trade-off for having such a large amount of random to see. Random C, is that a word? Amount of randomness. Anyways, we're down to 1,000 memory rights. Down to 500. 250. Accidentally messed up on there. Be sure that while you're going through sanitizing your corruption that you pay very close attention to whether you're actually removing the effect that you're looking for or keeping it. Something like Lucas Blinks. I had a pretty good results. I did Finding Nemo for the GameCube last night, and that one corrupted especially well. And what I did for those kind of corruptions that I normally don't do is I combined a lot of the corruptions together. Usually I just look for like one effect, and that's it. I stick with that one effect, and I don't combine it with other stash keys together. However, last night's stream, I did a bunch of them together. Like, I had several on a singular. I would combine, say, 7 different corruption effects together, and it was a much better result in the end. So I think that's what I'm going to be striving for with these new stockpiles or these new corruptions, trying to combine multiple effects together to have a more interesting sort of corruption. And that's why we're doing something as simple as Lucas blinking. I think that I might be able to use this later on for something else. Inherently, it's not that interesting, but I think if we find something that fits it, it will be much better. So I'll say, I've been using identifiers like toEdit, and we'll say Lucas blink. So now I know that that is a component that I'd like to add something to, not decent in itself. And since this is sanitized, and we have a source address and a parameter value, we can send different parameter values to the source address just to see if it changes anything. So I'm re-rolling it now, just sending different values to that memory address. And it looks like it's mostly probably a non-zero. If he has a non-zero value, make him blink, otherwise don't blink. So we'll move on from here. I'm going to clear out the history, and blast send, we'll find a new corruption. Here's another audio one. I caution anyone for both the audio and visuals. If you're sensitive to flashing lights, loud sounds, bright colors, anything of that nature, I recommend just not watching the stream. Unfortunately, since with corruptions that is sort of uncontrollable and we get a lot of that effect, so be kind of cautious about that kind of thing. With this one, we are actually crashed here. However, this scene in itself looks kind of interesting. I'd like to be able to see if we can flip around Lucas. So while the controls are locked up right now, let's sanitize it to see if we can flip them around. Takes a sec to load. We have a very large blast layer size. That's what happens when we do. I see I got a couple new people in chat. For anyone that is unfamiliar with what I normally do, this is what oh, we actually crashed there for a second. There we go. What I normally do is I corrupt games on stream and create stockpiles for people to play, and I usually upload those stockpiles after the stream. I like seeing games corrupted. I like how they corrupt sometimes, and it makes me laugh, so I do that on stream. And today we're just doing Mother. Last night I did Finding Nemo, and I think the day before that I did Harvest Moon. Stuff like that. I do a whole range from Ness games to Wii games. And these controls are actually good to go now. So what we're actually doing is we're controlling the Lucas in the mirror, and we're not controlling our actual character. Our actual character is just sort of wiped off screen. We can't see him anymore. So that's kind of an interesting effect as well. I would like to keep this, again, as another to edit, maybe not to save inherently, but to add an effect to later. But before we do that, we must sanitize a little bit more. And this is sort of an easier one to sanitize. It's as simple as if you see the screen blacked out or the corruption that you're looking for persists, then remove. Otherwise, invert, then remove. So it only takes about a split second to confirm that the corruption you're looking for exists on screen. Alright, we're down to 2 memory writes and 1 memory writes. So setting the value 1B, I'm sorry, the value 9B to the source address 1B694 creates this effect. We'll send this to our stash. We'll throw it on the stockpile and call it to edit Dark World or something like that. We'll change the name as we find something to use it for. I'm now going to re-roll it to see if we get any other effect out of it. It appears that it just sort of fills in everything, or in this case, does nothing at all. So we're good to go there. We've had a lot of mirror effects, which is interesting, but we'll keep moving on. I'm going to clear out my history, and we can start with a brand new fresh corruption once again. It's kind of a pretty one. Oh wow, you can control it too. How about that? Also, there are no walls, so you can keep walking to infinity. Unless, I guess, the world must end somewhere around here. We can try re-rolling that to see if we have... That music's kind of neat. I almost want to keep that. The bars are also kind of interesting. Let me see. I want to see if I want to keep it as is. The unfortunate thing about this is the music doesn't seem to always stay the same. It depends on whether I moved right away or whether, well... I don't think I loaded the right one. This is supposed to be the right one. Okay. So I want to keep this. Let's not keep the bar effect. I don't think that's too interesting inherently. But the music, at least at the beginning, was very interesting, so let's keep that. I think we can throw that with one of the mirror ones. That'll take a sec. I made it lower our intensity just a tad. Yeah, there we go. Another soft crash, but it should come back from it. There we go. Since 4,000 memory writes is a lot to process. Oh, we got the mirror there. So this doesn't appear to have the music. But also neither does this. So we might be just sort of doing a wild goose hunt. I can try redoing this once again. But I think in the end we're going to be chasing out an effect that's not that interesting overall. So I think we should move on. We're actually going to move on. So let's clear our history and try to find something more interesting. This one's not bad if, well, let's see. The room itself seems to move, like, with us. Let's see if we can preserve that effect. It's a little hard to look at with this much intensity since there's so many things that are kind of broken on screen. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. We also can't move down. I'm hoping to get that back at least. Alright, down to 15 memory writes. We don't have the ability to walk down, and I don't think we're going to either. I think it's hand in hand with the effect that we're seeing on screen, unfortunately. And it sort of erases itself once we leave the room. Let's leave this one alone. We can try rerolling it to see if we get any better effect out of it. But yeah, there's not too much to it. So let's move on. Clear history, blast target once again. We seem to be messing up where the mirror's location is, but we don't mess with our image at all. This one, the walking animation's a little messed up. It's okay in the mirror though. Oh, minus the fact that the person in the mirror is looking the wrong way. That's kind of a cool effect. Let's save that specifically, because we can absolutely throw that with one of our existing corruptions. Takes a sec to load. 4,000 memory writes. First thing I'm gonna do before I forget is I am gonna knock back that intensity once the real-time corruptor wakes up. Knock it back to 3,000, just to make it a little bit easier on it. So it doesn't appear to be in this end. I'm gonna load the other half of the stockpile. Load it. Hey, thank you for the host, Baby Blue Fort. I appreciate that. Okay. So we still are facing the same way. I don't think it's actually the mirror image reversed. I think it's our player is reversed, and that's why this is happening. Yeah. Anyways, this is the effect we're looking for. Let's keep that. I like the sort of head dislocation thing. Okay, this one's back to normal. Don't want that. Is that horrifying? I've seen much worse, but this one ain't bad. creepy mirror. Okay, I'm gonna watch that a little bit later. Thank you for clipping that. I always appreciate when people clip. Alright, 2 left and 1 left. There we go. Send it to our stash and throw it on the stockpile. We'll call it to edit. Creepy mirror. So now let's combine this with one of our existing corruptions. So we have Mirror World. I think this one might fit nicely with it. We have Lucas Blink, where he's constantly blinking. That one won't fit very well. And Dark World. I don't think that one either. So let's try these 2 together. Yeah, they kind of fit together. There's something weird going on there. They're not exactly facing the right direction all the time. Let's throw these together, and we'll call this one Mirror World. Great. Throw that here. Remove the previous item, and now we can remove Creepy Mirror. And slowly, that's how I'd like to start doing my corruptions now, is keep them kind of small, but keep adding effects to our existing ones just to make them more interesting over the time. And with that being said, we're going to clear our history and do a fresh one. This one looks like it's like raining upside down. Oh, what is this? That's a horrifying old picture there. Let's save that. Put that right there. Alright, sanitize this out. Yeah, that 3000 intensity is a little bit nicer, a little bit easier on the processor. I hope we can move them. We can move them. That is fantastic. There we go, single memory right. Throw it on the stash, throw it on the stockpile, to edit, Dark Lucas. Let's reroll that a couple times. We can change just how much he's like darkened out, silhouetted. Ooh, that's a cool one. This one here, it's like to edit. Cousin Lucas. Oh, look at the green hair. Some cool little like coloration effects, I like these. We're gonna see if we mix Dark Lucas with one of these. Those two don't really fit together. And I don't think Mirror World would fit that well. Actually, you know what? Mirror World kind of does fit with this. A little bit. Let's put these two in. I like that one. Mirror World. And I don't want to let go of Dark Lucas quite yet. We're going to hold on to that one. Because I like that one. I think we can mix it with something else, but... Oh, what did I do? But I do like this one. And we'll hold on to Cousin Lucas just in case we find something for it. Alright, clearing history, blasting target. crashes really nicely. Like, it doesn't... I haven't seen a full-out crash, at least with EWRAM, yet. Like, it's been those sort of nice ones where it stutters for a second and then it catches itself and it runs still. Like, you can still kind of walk around here. Very nice crashes. Ooh. Why are we on the beach? This suit, shade swimsuit is pretty sweet, huh? Yeah. Pig masks, shoes, a playable crash. Yeah, absolutely. So I shouldn't be here yet, but I am. We'll put a save state here. It's a minor, well, should we put a save state here? I don't think we should, just because this is already on a corrupted file. We would have to sanitize it and then use that magic, but we aren't going to do that. Very cool though. And then after that we also have this. It sounded like the audio started freezing. Oh, that's right, where you're saving. It's a feature! It is a feature. Especially crashing beautifully is a feature. There's nothing wrong with it. Oh! So there's two things that happened there. The house ran away from us, just off to the left, and we also heard a pig squeal. So let's save both of those. Why? Okay. So there's a running away effect. We're gonna throw that on the stash. I might keep that, but we're gonna look for the other effect now. I'm amazed by how many Twitch emotes there are for. Or I guess those aren't Twitch emotes. Those are like Unicode or whatever. Actual emojis for pigs and their noses. I guess if you gotta be expressive. So I think, and this is gonna be terrible if it is, I think we could use the cheat engine, or the Hell Genie engine in this case. What is that monstrosity? Oh my god. I hope that someone's... That's not a global. Okay, that's someone's channel. I was gonna say, that's an awesome Yoshi emote. So I think if we use Hell Genie, or the cheat engine of the real-time corruptor, I think we can repeat this audio over and over and over again. Ideally. What is that an image of? Is that someone in the fire? Say, who is that burning? There we go, single memory right. And I just want to try it off the bat because I'm mostly curious. So right now we're using a blast byte, which is just setting the value. We can also use blast bytes for adding, subtracting, stuff like that. It is Yoshi. Yoshi, like, he's burning, isn't he? That looks like lava underneath him. That is the saddest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, so we're using Blast Byte, which has various modes like, you know, setting, adding, subtracting, stuff like that. If we use Blast Cheat, that uses the Hell Genie cheat engine built in, and I want to see if this creates a permanent effect. It doesn't. Okay, well, that's good to know. I was hoping it would just keep repeating it over and over again because that's what it keeps requiring it to play. But some things just weren't meant to be. Blast Byte. There we go. So we have that one effect, so we can send it to our stash, throw it on the stockpile, we'll call it to edit. Pig squeal. Squeal. think. Big storm. Does this fit with any of our current corruptions? I think the answer is, which corruption does it not fit with? Oh, is that a boar? Oh, it is a boar. Oh, I love that there's a boar remote. Weirdly reminds me of World of Warcraft. Lucas Blink now. I think we've done too much to Mirror World. I don't want to put it there. We'll just hold on to it for the time being. I think we can throw it in somewhere. Alright, moving on, we can clear our history. Blast target again. Ooh, there's a bad one. Surprisingly not getting awful corruptions. Foxology is nice. That's actually kind of like minimalist and nice. Reminds me of the Firefox's new logo. Kind of looks like that. Very neat though. Oh, that's right. The house ran away. We forgot about that one. I guess I cleared it already. Yeah. Do we want this one? Not particularly. We can try re-rolling it. Doesn't change too much. We'll move on. Two things. Down with the bell to leave. This one though, are we stuck here? No, we're just down there. Okay. I thought we were part of like the icon down there. I was like, huh. How in the world did that happen? This one rebooted the whole realm. Okay, I think we should get a change of scenery. Let's go outside now. Lucas the Rebel. Alright. We will make another safe state out here as soon as we can move around. Yeah, that's some good music. Alright, safe state set. Putting one in the glitch harvester. Okay, there's our permanent safe state. You're awake? Alright. Clearing history. And we're starting fresh out here. Oh, there's my perfect music. What are you? What am I? I'm missing you. Huh? Another teleport to the beach this time? To the beach again? Of course. Oh, we're T-posing. That's also neat. Give my regards to the next frog you meet. That's how you get a beach house. You just catapult your house down to the beach. Yeah, no problem here. Is the house... What's going on with the house roof? Whee! The catapult. Oh. Surprisingly, we're actually not getting as good of results that we did, or than we did when we were inside. No. Hurricane took our house. The mountains relocated in front of our house. Lots of like stuff moving. I guess it's probably because of the scrolling background. It's kind of easy to mess that up. There's 5 of Lucas. Oh, and he spins! Oh, he's also... Wait. He's not wearing a shirt when he goes up. Banned from Twitch. Let's do... No, I lost my place. There we go. Just a little rustling in the music. Oh, all the grassland has been ruined. It's all just unwatered awfulness now. This is why you take care of your environment. There's Lucas's cousin again. This one's purple-haired one. We're not getting too many different results, or actually too many interesting results outside. Let's try corrupting system bus. Let's do that now. So 3. We're going to select the system bus within the memory domains available to us. And I think 3000 is a little too high. We can try it though. Ooh. Yeah, it seems to be too high. I like the house coloration here though. No, I don't think you are. Alright. Yeah, those damn legal restrictions, right? I'm sure there's a couple Steam games that are out now that you can probably play. Kind of neat, like, futuristic sound to it. You save this one. Sounds like a really old fax machine. Those ones that would like print out the ones with all the little dots on the side, the little holes on the sides. Basically garbage band. Well, I mean, hey, someone might dig it. Just like a band that has too much synth, so they just make that their thing, and then go with it. There we go. Got a single memory right, we're going to throw it on our stash and drop it on the stockpile. We'll use this as a 2-edit value and call it just electric. And I'm curious if this will mix with any of our current corruptions. Yeah, it can be used indoors, so I'm going to put this with Dark Lucas. Combine those 2 stash keys together. And throw it on the stockpile like that. There we go. Can we combine this with anything else? Not really. I think I'm gonna I'll keep it on the stockpile for the time being, but we'll throw it out as soon as we can, if we can't mix with anything else. From here we can clear our history again, and blast target once more. Okay, I'm gonna save this one, because it looks like the cow committed murder. Because he has blood underneath him. Damn, purple cows in relation to mass genocide. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, shoot. Oh, this sounds awful. My ears. I feel like it's partly on the farmer, or I guess this is your dad, isn't it? I just said farmer because of his hat. Partly on your dad's fault. I mean, look, he has blood tracks underneath his feet. I think he trained the cow to do it. Oh, shoot. So there goes the purple effect. Still have the blood effect underneath, so that's still not bad. Gotta at least try to keep that. Some matchy foreshadowing, yeah? Oh, the pig has it too, I didn't even notice him. I feel like a developer would do that. Some like really edgy formatting, or foreshadowing. Like, you know how they do that in films where they just go over the top to hint at something? So these two memory writes together create this effect. However, unfortunately, I think it always leads to a crash because we can't have one without the other. It's either everyone's frozen, or no, they're not frozen in this one. It's either this or it's frozen in this case. Those two combined create the effect that we're looking for, and unfortunately, that's always a crash because of this one. So in that case, you might want to keep it. I'll throw it on the stash in case I find anything immediately that we can use it for, but since it's always going to be a crash, you may not want to hold on to it. Alright, moving on. Blasting target with a fresh one. Got like a synth cowbell. Got a couple good music ones there, so this one I don't want to keep too much. One of these, I swear we had another effect. No, maybe not. Huh, how about that? Alright, we're going to try switching around engines. Currently we're using the Nightmare engine, which just blasts the ROM with random data types, or it applies a blast layer. Random data types between the values of 0 and FF. So we're going to switch that from random to just tilt types for the time being, and we'll try blasting the stockpile with that. There's our music ones. I just realized the blast type was set to original. This one kind of sounds neat, but I don't want to keep it. You know, I kind of want to keep... I've been thinking about throwing a video together of just music of these kind of compilations. Let's do just music. Well, but then I also have to sanitize these. Let's not worry about it. Maybe in the future. It does sound kind of good though. Alright, moving on. Let's do, so we're doing tilt types now. The difference between tilt types and random types is just given a random source address decided upon by the intensity, at that source address either increment or decrement the value at that source address by 1. So usually these can be a little bit safer. They won't crash the audio as much. They can still lead to game crashing bugs, but usually it won't be as intense. And at the very least, we'll get different kind of types of corruptions out of this. And I'm not seeing too much that piques my interest. We're going to now try switching corruption engines. So currently we're using the Nightmare engine, and we're going to switch over to the Hell Genie engine. And we touched on this just a little bit earlier. Essentially this is just cheat engine underneath the hood. It applies, given a random source address, at that value, assign a new value, and then force that variable to hold that value indefinitely. And this is limited by the amount of max cheats, not by the intensity, so we're going to increase our max cheats up to 200. This can be rather processor intensive, since every single iteration step, that memory address needs to be rewritten with the value that has been predetermined or pre-chosen every single iteration step. So like it doesn't let it change, and 200 memory writes every iteration step can be kind of intensive. So let's try this a little bit. See if it gets anything out of it. I kind of want to give this a go on our original save state, so let me do that. Lots of audio bugs. That's kind of a new one. Let's save this one. I should pause this. If we have anyone new that's sensitive to flashing lights or bright sounds, or has epilepsy, we have lots of flashing lights. The current corruption actually has that, so be precautious. Alright, so moving on, we're going to sanitize this corruption. I don't know what's going on there. It's almost like it keeps trying to close the scene, but when it realizes it's not supposed to close the scene yet, it brings it back up, and then it kind of gets stuck in a loop. Alright, there we go. Single memory write. We can throw it on our stash, and then throw it on the stockpile. We'll call it... I'll pause it while I'm just trying to decide. How about, someone struck a power pole. Can we combine this with any of our existing ones? We can try it with... Not that one. Dark Lucas. Oh, unfortunately, that actually resets Dark Lucas's skin. Also, does this last outside? It doesn't. That wasn't something I knew. So this is a good chance to edit Dark Lucas. I think what's going on here is... Let's figure out which of these two effects that is. So this top source address here, the EWRAM C452FF, what happens there is it sets the current sprite or the current coloration on the sprite, and as soon as we walk out of the room, it redraws the character. And in that redrawing, it sends it back to its original value, not the value that we set. So instead of using blast byte and just setting the value temporarily, we need to use cheat engine in order to set that value permanently throughout the entire game, so it never allows it to change back to another value. So let's see if this works. Hopefully. And it does. So now when we go outside of the room, he's now permanently this sort of darker sprite. And let's even try changing our clothes. Even now, it should still keep that. Yep, we just have little red shoes on now. So yeah, it does keep that effect indefinitely. So now we can bring back the audio for this. And now we have these two together. We're gonna send this to our stash. That should be this one, right? Yeah. Now we're gonna throw this on the stockpile and call this Dark Lucas. Now I don't know if I want to combine these two together. Because while it's kind of cool to see this and it looks neat, it's very slow and very hard to move around. Let's see if we can change how intense this is maybe by re-rolling it, the flashing effect. That doesn't appear to be the case, unfortunately. This is a hard decision for me to make, because I like these two effects separate from each other. But I think the flashing is just, it's a little too much, so we'll keep it as a 2 edit. Someone struck a power pole. Okay, there we go. And from there, we're going to clear our history and blast the target with a brand new corruption. Currently, we're corrupting both EW, RAM, and system bus at the same time, just to cover both of them, so we can test them both at the same time. No other reason other than that. We're going to try raising our max cheats up to 400. Kind of a lot, but we'll give it a go. Lots of very ugly audio. So I'm not seeing too many new effects. I think it's about the limitation of what we're going to see. So let's go ahead and try switching to another engine. Now, all the remaining engines, I'm not entirely sure how well they work with the glitch harvester specifically. Mostly I use the distortion engine, which is the current one, the freeze engine, the pipe engine, just those three, with real-time corruptions only, where you're corrupting as you're running the emulation and not before the fact. With the glitch harvester, we only have one chance to blast the emulator with a corruption, and that's it. It doesn't persist after that. So I don't know how well these work, and we're going to give it a couple tries. So it's blasted. Now I'm going to do a very high intensity just to see if we see any effect at all. I'm going to clear our history out. And distortion engine, well, I don't think we're going to see anything with it, so we're going to move on. Next one is the freeze engine. So before we were talking about source addresses and how we were permanently forcing them to keep a certain value. With the freeze engine, we go to a bunch of source addresses and we make them hold their current value and don't let it change it. Now, given that most of the objects on screen are static, meaning they're not changing, they're just flat objects, other than the whole entire world moving and looks as sprite cycle, there's not a whole lot of stuff going on the screen. So the freeze engine might also not be too interesting. Like, I'm going to try to hit it here a couple times. There's an example of a freeze engine. So we froze that bit of the wall to stay in place, and it will now kind of always be on that screen there. And I think even if we leave, won't that also... No, not even then. Some of the stuff is kind of sticking, if you can see that. Now this is a manual blast in real time, so this is something that we're doing while we're running the emulation. Doing this with the glitch harvester, I don't think that works too well. We're gonna try it a couple times here. I saw a little bit of a visual glitch, but it was only a very temporary one. Let's try a very high... Well, intensity doesn't affect this, it's the amount of max freezes. And again, just like the Help Genie engine, this is very processor intensive, since every single iteration step, it needs to ensure that all the memory addresses that are within the max freezes domain all will retain their same value, or it overwrites it and returns to the backup. So, let's blast our target again. And yeah, I'm not seeing anything that interests me, unfortunately. So let's move on. We have the pipe engine. Let me run that before I explain it, just to cool down PCs running a little too fast. So the pipe engine, given a source address with a specific value, pipe that data that's in that value over to another domain address. So it'll just pipe what's in the source address to another location and overwrite what's at that other location. Kind of like setting addresses, but sometimes you get more interesting results of this. This is what happens when you manually blast it. We're going to do some autocorrupts, but not with that high of an intensity. We're going to do a very low intensity, like 500. Jesus. Okay. Yep. Also with the pipe engine, you must clear your pipes because they will hold cooler pipes right here. They will retain those values even if you load back to your safe state. It doesn't clear those pipes. Very crashy. We have a very high intensity, so I'm using the auto corrupt feature, which maybe is a little too much for it. And I cleared the pipes there. This is kind of cool. I'd like to keep this if this was a Harvest City glitch, but it's not. Alright. Oh, that was a nice one. Let's hear that. Me telling you, I don't know what area this is from, but it shouldn't be in Lucas's bedroom. Outside of this, though, I'm not seeing too much else. So, what I would do from here, since we're not seeing too many other corruptions from, at least System Bus and EWRAM, what I would do in off-stream, not live, I would go through all the other memory domains like IWRAM, BIOS, ROM, the ones that are prone to crashes, and I would just like put a video on the side, watch the video, and corrupt for like a couple hours and try to fine tooth some of these. Maybe eventually you'll get a BIOS corruption, or you'll get a I keep saying BIOS. It's a BIOS corruption, or you'll get like an IWRAM. But it's a very finicky process, and a lot of the time you'll get those awful audio corruptions, so I'll just mute the game audio all of the time or have it very low. So that's where I would move on from here. I would also try a couple other locations. Like we tried corrupting out here, but we were just unhappy with most of the results. I mean, you're gonna manually blast it a couple times. A lot of the time it was just either corrupted audio or just like very small graphical effects out here. So nothing I would want to keep. Our stockpile wasn't very extensive, unfortunately. We'll have to try a little bit harder next time. With Mother 1, I also didn't have a fantastic stockpile for that. I was hoping it might be a little bit better for Mother 3, but that wasn't the case. It's still a little lacking, so I may come back to this at a later time. I'll save the stockpile, actually right away. So I'll save it on the desktop. It's Mother 3 stockpile. And I'll come back to this another time and probably add to it after the fact. But that's it for the day. We're actually gonna switch gears here and find someone to host. I don't have anything else lined up at the moment. What I was planning on doing tonight, and I unfortunately didn't get to it, but I wanted to, was I was going to do some Sega CD corruptions for... I'm blanking on the name. We had Sewer Shark lined up. So I didn't get to play Sewer Shark. I don't know how to play the actual game itself, and I was trying for a little while. I'm getting better at that. I would like to be able to at least play the game pretty well before I corrupt it. So that's what I was moving towards first. I may get to that tomorrow or the next day, sometime soon. That's kind of decent music to end on. We'll leave it. We'll find someone within Retro to host. I usually take a minute or two to find someone to host since I'm a little biased. I usually stick around for maybe 20-30 minutes on whoever I host just to check them out, so I usually find something I'm interested in watching. Alright, I got someone to host here. Thank you for everyone who was able to stop by tonight. I'll be probably corrupting tomorrow. I'll be streaming tomorrow at the very least. I'm not sure I'm going to be corrupting. But yeah, have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next one.